the truth of the matter is, in America right now, and specifically in the city of Chicago, our children are being taught to hate America, to hate American values, and to believe that somehow America is so systemically racist that there is no possible way that young Black kids can have a fair chance. And we teach the very opposite.
Welcome to another episode of Counterculture, the show that stands at the intersection of reason and faith in the battle against sentimentality. One of the most jarring statistics in America, discussed too infrequently, is, as of 2010, 1 in 3 adult Black men have a felony conviction. That's 4 times the percentage of all adults with felony convictions. Correspondingly, 3% of American adults have ever been to prison, but for the adult Black male population, it's 15%. The 1619 Project set and an assortment of race hustlers and identitarian simps will tell you this disparity is the byproduct of systemic racism. But that argument is just a byproduct of their strip people of their agency for profit business model. In fact, those numbers I referenced represent an explosive increase between the years 1980 and 2010, the time frame of the study that produced them. Decades, if not generations, removed from the worst state-sanctioned racism in America, and during a time of exponential growth in race and poverty-based government benefits programs. Pastor Corey Brooks from Chicago's South Side wrote recently, and I'm quoting him, "What I have learned throughout my time on the South Side is that these diversity folks, DEI, the latest iteration, want only one thing from me, to look back at the racial horrors of the past and complain eternally about them. Having me complain serves them because they find power in racial grievances. That's why I have chosen instead to build." And build he has. After raising nearly $35 million in private money, aided by his attention-grabbing decision to live on top of shipping containers for 3 months, the rooftop pastor is in the process of constructing a transformative community center and tuition-free Christian school that would serve families living in some of the toughest and most violent neighborhoods in Chicago. Pastor Brooks' approach at Project H.O.O.D, which stands for Helping Others Obtain Destiny, is both prevention and restoration. Open the lanes of opportunity to young people so they choose the better path, and help those who veered off the righteous trail find their way back. You can get more information about Project H.O.O.D at projecthood.org, and you can get more information about Corey Brooks and his vision for Chicago, and by extension, all of America's inner cities right now, as we're pleased to welcome Corey Brooks on this episode of Counterculture. Corey, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. So, Pastor Brooks, thanks for being with us. So, before we get into some of the policy implications of the work that you've done, just put a little bit more meat on the skeletal outline I gave of your ministry and some perspective on your journey from, getting into ministry as a young man and then what has transpired over the last 3 decades.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Well, I grew up in Muncie, Indiana. Used to be called the middle of the US of A. And I went to college there as well at Ball State University, where I majored in political science. I tell everybody that it was at Ball State University, majoring in political science, where I found out that I was a true conservative. Up until that time, I thought like everyone else in my family, that I was a loyal Democrat, only to discover that some of my political views were totally opposite of what I had grown up to believe was correct. And so ever since my freshman year in college, I've been a conservative. I've been talking about conservative principles and conservative views, and that kind of helped me to build a framework for the type of ministry that I wanted to have. Thankfully, I was able to go to Dallas Theological Seminary. I spent a year in law school at the University of Florida, and I ended up here in Chicago. And being here in Chicago, in a highly Democratic area, a very liberal area, I was able to see right away the great need for the type of ministry that I wanted to do that dealt with not focusing on grievances, but focusing on transforming lives and helping people to take responsibility for their lives, helping people to be accountable to themselves and to their community. And so that whole concept and ideas kind of framed how I do ministry and how our church does ministry, and how we've been able to form a non-for-profit called Project Hood to help people to get to their own destinies.
Well, so I mean, it's like one of the things you did, which is great, is put conservative principles into action. Because I mean, in terms of this raise you did, and talk a little bit about that, the $35 million raise for this community center, which is going to be really a central feature of the Woodlawn community on Chicago South Side upon its completion, and the school and the entrepreneurship programs, and I mean, this is what conservative principles in private action looks like.
Absolutely. You know, a lot of times in our neighborhood, the left, the more liberal thinkers are always wanting us to take some type of handout or put some type of program in place and pump money into a situation to try to say that they're fixing it, only to discover that they're only compounding our problems over and over again. So we decided, hey, we're going to take responsibility. We're not going to wait on government to come in and save the day. We're not going to wait on anyone else to come in and fix our problems. We're going to roll up our sleeves. We're going to figure out what the issues are. We're going to be truthful, honest, with integrity, and go about trying to create an agenda to better the lives of people. So with that said, Project Hood was started. We started focusing on social issues, spiritual issues, economic, educational, and health and wellness in an effort to solve the issues of violence and to solve the issue of poverty. With that said, we came up with this idea of putting together a community center, not just a community center, but an economic center, a center where we can teach the trades, because we really do believe educationally that everyone may not go to college, and so they need to have a viable option, and that viable option is the trades, especially with so many individuals in need of trade workers. So we teach carpentry, we teach plumbing, we teach electrical, we teach even automotive. The facility that we're building is not only going to have trades, but we offer a lot of trauma counseling and a lot of violence prevention. We have a bank where we're working with Wintrust Bank, because we believe that we got to create an economic base to keep our community moving forward. So there's a lot of different components of this center, but it's all centered around conservative principles in a very liberal city to show people that we believe that our way works, and we want to create a model that we can use in other cities as well.
You know what? I wonder what kids and families say about the experience of their kids in the Chicago public school system as compared to the experience of your kids at New Beginnings Church and at Project Hood, with the entrepreneurship, with the trades, with the financial literacy. What do they say about what's happening where I go to Corey Brooks's place versus what's happening when I go to the neighborhood school?
You know, one of the things that they definitely will say is that their kids are learning self-respect. Their kids are learning that they are not entitled to anything, that they must work. I tell people, yesterday I talked to a group of Wheaton students, and I was telling them, they asked me what's one of the things that gives me the greatest joy. And I told them, I can remember when we first came into this neighborhood, when kids would come to the church and they would say, Pastor, can you give me $1? Pastor, do you have $5? Pastor, can you buy us a pizza? And it used to really bother me that these kids were always asking for things. But I realized they were in an impoverished area, and these were probably things that just like any other kids they needed. But so we started teaching them, listen, you're not entitled. I don't owe you. No one owes you. But what you can do is work. And so now, whenever you come to our church and you're around any kids and you see any young people coming up to me and they need something, they're not going to say, can I have $5, or can you give me $10, or can you buy us a pizza? They're going to say, hey, Pastor, do you have any work I can do so I can earn $5 to do such and such? And that is from the youngest to our oldest teenagers. And that is across the board, that they have learned the dignity of work. And for me, that makes me more proud than anything, the fact that these young people are learning that entitlement is not the way to go, that the dignity of work and self-responsibility and accountability, that is the way to go. And I think that's going to go a long, long way in their life.
What kind of discussions do you have? Because I mean, that's, you're essentially like what Bob Woodson is, a solutionist. So you can call it
Yes.
conservative principles, but it's not partisan. It's not about candidates. It's about the principles of being successful. So that's what you're describing. But you're up against a message within the school system, within the political environment in Chicago, that's 180 degrees from what you just said. And I just wonder what some of those discussions are like with families in the neighborhoods that you serve, where they're hearing one thing everywhere else except when they come to visit with you.
Dan, the truth of the matter is, in America right now, and specifically in the city of Chicago, our children are being taught to hate America, to hate American values, and to believe that somehow America is so systemically racist that there is no possible way that young black kids can have a fair chance. And we teach the very opposite. We want them to love America. We want them to love the fact that you can be whatever you want to in America. Every opportunity is before you. You just have to take advantage of the opportunity. And so we try to make sure that the parents, that the young people, that we are counterculture, that we counteract what is being taught in our schools as it relates to being woke, as it relates to CRT, as it relates to DEI. All of these things for us are a waste of productivity and moving young people and people from our community, moving them forward.
And the political establishment, I can't think of I've known you for a long time, and I can't think of an instance where I've heard, read, or seen anybody in the political establishment in Chicago, which is all left, of course, dare to take you on. They haven't. There's been no criticism. I don't recall criticism. But Corey Brooks isn't doing it the right way. Corey Brooks's message is wrong. I don't hear them. It seems to me their attempt to just sort of ignore you because they don't want to take you on speaks to that you have a model here that needs to be replicated and scaled, not just in Chicago, but nationally. I mean, whenever the left is silent about somebody who is moving the needle in a positive direction, that you're doing something that should be recognized.
Right. Either they're silent or they'll take the approach, he's an Uncle Tom or he's a sellout, and they'll say things like that because they don't want to face the fact that what we're doing is actually working and that lives are being changed. And it causes them to take a look in the mirror to see that these principles that they've been using, these policies that they've been using have been of no positive results for our community. So when they see me and when they see Project Hood and they see the work that we're doing, they have to face reality that they are possibly doing it the wrong way. And we have the lives to prove. And it's kind of like my grandfather used to say, the proof is in the pudding. We're proving that things are working by showing example after example after example of lives that are being changed as a result of the way we choose to do it, which is directly opposite of the liberal way of doing it.
And give us a sense of how big your operation is now, how many kids and families you're able to reach at this stage, something that you've essentially built from scratch.
Absolutely. So I can give you several things that we do. For instance, our carpentry cohort, we just had only 30 seats available until our center is built, which we're building a 90,000 square foot center. Until that center is built and we can have hundreds of people in the class. Right now, we're only able to have 25 per cohort. We had over 356 people sign up for very few seats. So we're reaching people. Every summer we have a summer program for 350 kids where we have them for the whole entire summer, and we're excited about that. We're able to reach thousands of people with our programs, and it's going to be scaled to a very higher number once the center is done. But we've been able to reach people in our Woodlawn community. We went from having a staff of 3 to now having a full-time staff of over 50 people and another 40 part-time workers. So our organization is really growing, and it's really able to reach a lot of people. Every single day, we're helping people find adequate housing. Every single day, we're helping people find jobs. Every single day, we're focusing on training. Every single day, we're dealing with the trauma. Every day, we're making sure that we help people be accountable for their lives and take responsibility for their lives, and make sure that we pour into them that absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, that no one owes you anything. You have to roll up your sleeves, you have to get busy, and you have to take responsibility. And the thing that we really push is that you cannot blame the white man. We don't believe at all that white supremacy is the issue that we're dealing with on the south side of Chicago. So we make sure that we say that, and we make sure that people understand that, and we will, you know, pull you on the carpet for even having discussions and talking like that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, it's encouraging for people that don't know the south side of Chicago and the Woodlawn neighborhood. This is one of the most violent neighborhoods, blighted neighborhoods in the city, and for there to be demand that exceeds supply at the courses that you're offering, that shouldn't be encouraging sort of writ large, because it says even in some of the toughest neighborhoods in Chicago and the rest of the country, there are people that are striving for a direction to the lanes of opportunity. And if you provide those lanes, then boom, you start to turn people's lives around. So now that's on the front end. We're talking largely on the front end by, although unfortunately there's a lot of kids that are involved in street lifestyle too. But
Right.
What about on the back end? I mean, that stat I mentioned at the beginning, I don't think most people appreciate that. It's just one of the most depressing statistics that in terms of describing a situation in America. 1 in 3 adult black men with a felony conviction, and it's you hear that, and people want to say, well, oh my God, you have a felony conviction. The thinking used to be, I was taught growing up, felony conviction, you do something like that and you're done. You're not going to be able to find success in this country, and I don't want that to be the case. Obviously, for people who do something stupid and terrible, but have the opportunity to turn their lives around and take it. But I mean, that is just such a big population, and I know that's part of your work too. So speak to how we think about that ex-offender population.
Absolutely. So we have a reentry program, and you're right, Dan, that it is very unfortunate that those statistics are a reality. But because they are a reality, we see it as an opportunity to even help more people to transform their lives. So we have a big focus, not just on individuals who have never gone to prison or who never had a felony. We also focus just as hard on individuals who have felonies, who have gone to prison, and who are coming out. We want to make sure that recidivism in our neighborhood goes down and not up. So we do everything we can when individuals are coming back home to make sure that we assist them with any type of traumas that they have, counseling, family issues, whatever issues that they may have, helping them to resolve it so they can get back on track. Because part of being an American and part of American values is understanding that people do deserve a second chance. And the only way they can make good on those second chances is to have adequate opportunities that focus them on taking responsibility, but also giving them access and also giving them opportunity to get on track. So we have a wonderful reentry program where we take individuals and help to restore them back to dignity. And we're really focused on that, and we're really adamant about that, especially as it relates to black men, because there are so many black men who, as you mentioned earlier, who have been incarcerated and who are returning citizens. And so those returning citizens, if we don't want them to fall back in the same trap, we have to make sure that when they come back to our community, we put things in place to get them working, get them thinking correctly, and get them with their families. That is very, very critical.
So how does it work with you? I know our mutual friend John Ponder, who runs Hope for Prisoners out in Clark County, Nevada, and which is one of the best programs in the country. Talk about a program that should be scaled. It was recognized by President Trump. He's got a recidivism rate that's like 6%, where the recidivism rate, generally speaking, is like 70. I mean, it's incredible what he's doing. And so, but he contracts directly with the Clark County government in terms of sort of people who are getting out. They have the option to go through his intensive, it's like a year and a half program, and which is why it's so effective. And so he's built that trust relationship with the criminal justice system, and he's producing results. How does it work in Chicago with you? Are you working with Cook County criminal justice system, or is it just with family connections in the city, or how does it work?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you mentioned him because he has one of the best programs, if not the best, in the country. And we use a lot of his principles, especially as it relates to how we get people in our program. We have a direct relationship with Cook County, and we have a direct relationship with the Department of Corrections. When people who are returning back, especially the Woodlawn, we're notified. And instead of waiting on them to reach out to us, we instantly reach out to them. So before an individual is getting ready to be released, we make sure that those individuals know that, hey, when you come home, these are opportunities that are available to you. We would love to assist you. We would love to aid you and put you in a program to get you back on track. So yes, that's exactly what we do. We wait. We don't wait on them. We go after them to get them on track. And a lot of times they come into our programs. They participate in the programs, and our recidivism rate is somewhere around 15%. So we're chasing that 6%, so we can be like Ponder. But
that's
we're
great.
We're
I mean,
in the nation.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, so when you talk about all these programs and you see other people doing similar things to you in other big cities, and you guys obviously talk. Is there something that's sort of like consistent in your conversations with people doing this work in New York or Las Vegas or LA, where it's like, if only the local and state government would start doing this or stop doing that, we could make much more progress much more quickly? Is there sort of certain common infirmities that you see from the nonprofit?
Absolutely. A lot of times what we see is government getting in the way, and that's across the board. And I think if we can somehow get government out of the way and allow these organizations like ours and like Ponders and like some of the others, Homeboy Network in LA, I can name several around the country that are actually working. If they would allow those organizations to have more influence, more impact, and remove themselves and get rid of all the red tape and bureaucracy, we could be so much more effective. And we could I tell people, we're better at solving the problems that we're facing in our community than government is. And so if government would just get out of the way and support us and let us do it, we would yield much better results than the government. And I think that's one of the things that can be done around the country.
Can I ask you a question? What is the Black community? What is that? Because I hear a lot of self-appointed spokesmen and women talking about the Black community believes this, the Black community needs that, the Black community is this. You see it on cable news shows all the time. You hear it from politicians all the time. Nobody speaks about the white community as the white community. It's only minority communities that it's like it's the Latino community, it's the Black community, it's the Asian community, like they're monolithic. And I just wonder, how you react to that, how you process that, how you talk about it with the people you serve.
Absolutely. And I think you just hit it, that we're not monolithic. And I think a lot of times from the left, these liberal individuals want people to believe that all Black people think the same way and that we all have the same ideas, but we don't. I believe in America, and I believe in American values. And so I tell people in a minute, look, I'm an American. I promote American values. Yes, I am a black man, but at the end of the day, I am an American. And it's those values that I want to share and that I want people to take part in from our community. But if we're always focused on our color and always focused on things that divide us and not focused on things that unify us, like being Americans, we're never going to achieve what we need to achieve as a country, and we're never going to achieve what we need to achieve as individuals in our community. So I try to shy away and stay away from that whole concept of Black Americans and Hispanic Americans and Native Americans. No, we are all Americans, and we must do what we need to do to make everybody's life better. Because regardless of where I am in America, when one rises, we all rise. We all rise, and so we want to make things better for everybody.
As a conservative, and I say this with respect to black and white conservatives and every other stripe of conservative, what is it you think is the biggest hurdle to reaching more black Americans with conservative principles, even when they're put into action and provide demonstrated success like you've done? John McWhorter, the linguistics professor at Columbia University, he seems to think it's police. It's that the attitudes toward police, that's the biggest hurdle in trying to reach the larger black population with a conservative message. Do you agree, or is there something else?
Yeah, I disagree. I think the biggest hurdle is relationships. I think a lot of times that conservatives believe that they want to help, but they don't involve themselves because they feel like sometimes that they're not wanted in this community. However, that is not true. I've seen that when conservatives reach out and when conservatives are involved and when they build relationships, that individuals start to find out that, hey, we're a lot more alike than we are not alike. And I think we have to do a better job at just making sure that conservatives have opportunity to build relationships. That's one of the reasons why I work really, really hard at making sure my conservative brothers get an opportunity to come into our community. They get a chance to dialogue. They get a chance to talk. For instance, we had Tim Scott here at our church and at our non-for-profit and exposing him to our community. And I had so many people who thought that they did not like Tim Scott and they wanted nothing to do with Tim Scott. But after hearing him and listening to him and being in a relationship with him, they changed their minds. That's the type of thing that needs to happen. We need to create avenues and create opportunities for more conservatives to come into neighborhoods like this so they can share in their compassion and share in building relationships. So I think building relationships is the biggest thing that needs to happen.
What about with respect to violence in urban centers? Again, your experience, that's interesting about the relationship piece for building broader open-mindedness to conservative principles and conservatives as well. But what about, this is something that, of course, everybody is trying to address, and it was front and center until the border security issue sort of somewhat supplanted it, but it's violent crime. I mean, we saw the huge spikes in violent crime from the summer of 2020 riots through last year. And again, every major city with population over 250,000, it has a violent crime problem. It is largely black on black violent crime. From your experience working with people or working with young people who are on the straight and narrow at this point, or working with people who have been in jail for violent crimes and are now out, is there something that you find really deserves the focus, that produces the best results in terms of keeping kids away from street life or keeping people who were in the street life away from it the next go around?
Yeah, it's kind of like a coin, like a heads and tails. On one side, we do need the police. We have to stop handcuffing the police and allow them to do police work. Across the country, we put the police department in such a position to where I believe that oftentimes they're even afraid to do their jobs. That cannot be if we want a society and if we want a community where people are able to stay safe. I want the police to feel like in our community that they can do their jobs without being fired, without being sued, without being turned on. I think we have to do a better job with that. On the flip side, I think we have to do a better job at making sure that we take responsibility for our children. We have to make sure that our children understand that if you break the law, that you're going to be held accountable. And we cannot allow individuals to harbor lawbreakers and to promote lawlessness and to allow lawlessness and sin to run rampant and unharnessed. We have to harness it, and we have to do a better job as a community at calling it out. And so we need policing, but we also need organizations and individuals like ourselves, like myself, to take responsibility for our community, and we can't leave that up to everyone else to do it.
You know, much is made of the talk that black parents have to have with their kids. I mean, this is an argument that's presented. And the talk is really, historically, in the way it's described by identitarians today, is, you know, the police are systemically racist. And so, you know, basically they're out to get you. And I wonder how prevalent that version of the talk is and what your talk is at Project H.O.O.D when you talk to young people, or, you know, young and old alike for that matter, about policing and the talk.
Yeah, the talk. I tell black kids and white kids the same thing. When the police pull you over, when the police put their sirens on, pull over. When they tell you, give me your license and registration, it's yes, sir. Here you go. When they say step out of the car, you say absolutely. The problem is that we've created such a disdain for police that people in our community, and not just our community, but in America in general, we've created such a disdain for the police that people think that they can just treat police officers any type of way. But you know, this whole idea that policing is born out of systemic racism is so far from the truth. I tell people all the time that yes, there are some bad police officers, but that does not mean that all police officers are bad. Yes, there are some horrible preachers, but that does not mean all preachers are bad. And there's a horrible dentist and the horrible auto mechanics, but I don't stop going to the dentist and I don't stop going to the auto mechanic because I come across one bad one. No, I just get rid of that one. The system is still good, things still work, but we have to understand that we can't blame the faults of one and then blame the many. That's just not the way it should work.
Have you ever I mean, I think I know the answer to this question, but there's a point to it. Have you ever experienced racism? Have you ever felt like you were treated poorly because of your race?
Well, you know, I'm a country boy, so I told you I was born in, grew up in Muncie, Indiana, but I'm originally from Union City, Tennessee. And so I unfortunately saw the Klan. So I know what real racism looks like. And some of the stuff that people are calling racism is so far from the truth. So yeah, I think I've seen racism, and I've seen it. I've seen hatred, and I've seen bigotry. But that's, again, I tell everybody all the time, that is not the number one problem that we are faced with in America, and especially in urban communities like the one that I'm in. That's just not the truth, and it's not the issue that we're faced with over and over again. My problems are not the result of the white man.
Right. So I mean, it's the argument is, I suppose, of course, like you were talking about the bad dentist, the bad auto mechanic. Yeah, there in a country of 330 million people, there's some ignoramuses, there's some bad actors. And so there are going to be incidents of racism that occur for sure, but that is separate and distinct from saying America is systemically racist, that a group of people is being systemically oppressed, and you're saying essentially, yeah, that's not the case.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I'm saying, that's not the case, that America is a place built upon opportunity, and you can be whatever you choose to be in America. You can become the president of the United States. You can become the mayor of Chicago. If you take advantage of the opportunities, there is no amount of white supremacy or racism that can stop you from being anything that you choose to be in America. That's what makes us so different than other places. America is the greatest country in the world. Even with its flaws, we're the greatest country.
So the migrant situation in Chicago, 28 shelters as of last count that are full up, migrant shelters in the city of Chicago. And there's been a real reaction among Black and Latino residents, white residents, everybody who's a taxpayer, particularly if they're struggling, seeing what the city is doing for people in this country illegally, largely, many who did not file asylum applications, but they're here anyway. And so I wonder, a land of opportunity, immigration, yeah, that's a part of it. But I wonder what your reaction is and what you're hearing from those families you serve about the sanctuary city designation Chicago has decided it will be, and Illinois has decided it will be, and now the consequences of that designation being realized in full blossom.
Yes. Let me say from the very onset that we must control our borders. We must stop people from illegally coming into our country. That is, without a shadow of a doubt, it must be done. Now, with that said, Chicago is a sanctuary city, and being a sanctuary city, they have said that they allow individuals to come to this city and illegally or legally, and they're safe here. That principle, that sanctuary city piece, is really, a lot of people in our city are against it. They would love to have the opportunity to vote, and I would guarantee you, if a vote were to happen, that moniker of a sanctuary city would definitely be removed if it was up for a vote. There are so many people in our community who are so angry about the migrants being in the neighborhood, and it's kind of strange because, for the most part, our communities have been some of the most compassionate communities around. But the fact that many feel like a lot of the resources that could be used to make our communities better are now being used in other places for individuals who have come illegally. I don't think our community has a problem helping people who are here legally. I think it's the issue that you have all of these people who are here illegally, and now all of our taxpayers' funds, all of our monies are going into helping these individuals. Even like in California, I don't know how true it is. I haven't done enough research. I know you'll know more than I do, but I think I came across something where they were talking about even giving free medical to migrants. That's crazy. The fact that they're going to take taxpayers' money, and the fact that they're going to allow illegal immigrants to come, and then we're just going to foot the bill and forget about the things that need to be done in our communities, that's not the American way. And
well,
yeah.
In California, it's not just free medical care. We're doing the same thing in Illinois. We spent more than $1 billion in Medicaid already on migrants through Medicaid. In California, they're paying for migrants' gender transition surgeries. Wow. So, I mean, it's over the edge, as you might expect from California. But I wonder if this is an inflection point. Do you think is this a moment where some people's minds are really going to be changed, not just on this matter, but on a range of issues, and they're sort of re-examining some of the political leaders they've supported? Is that do you sense that in the neighborhoods you serve?
I sense that in the neighborhood like never before. That if some of my right-leaning friends would understand it, they could really use it to enhance conservative and Republican views. Not that we're trying to promote being a Republican or anything like that, but it's a great opportunity because there are so many people in our community who are fed up with this principle. And now that they're looking at it, they're starting to look at other things and say, well, you know what? Not only are we fed up with this migrant issue, but since we're making noise, we're fed up with this educational way of doing things, not giving people a choice for their kids to have the best schools possible, while some of our political elected officials are sending their kids to private schools and getting the best educations and for their children while making impoverished kids from urban communities go to these schools that are underperforming. So there are a lot of issues that they're now starting to look at, but I think the migrant issue is the biggest, and it's causing them now to look at other areas to say, hey, we're fed up with all of this. So it's a great opportunity, and I'm definitely trying to take advantage of it to get the messaging out there that, hey, there is an alternative.
So I know you're a Vision Quest guy, so let's leave it with this. What's the sort of blue skies vision for Project H.O.O.D after you get this this learning / community / training center constructed and the school up and running? What is it that you see next for Project H.O.O.D in Chicago and perhaps elsewhere?
All right, that's only just the beginning. You know, we're creating a model for a reason. We're creating this model with the center. We're creating this model with trying to build the school. We're creating a model with trying to buy Parkway Gardens eventually, because we want to transform not just a piece of the community, but we want to transform the whole community. And then our goal is to take the show on the road. There are so many cities that are, especially liberal cities, that are really hurting for direction and for guidance. So we want to go to Philly. We want to go to St. Louis. We want to go to New Orleans. We want to go to all of these areas where they're having a lot of issues. And we want to plant a Project H.O.O.D flag and say, hey, here's the alternative to all these liberal policies. We have something that works, and we believe that we can help you transform your community. Here we are, and let's roll up our sleeves and do it.
He is Pastor Corey Brooks. He may be coming to a town near you very soon. ProjectHood.org. Pastor Brooks, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much, and it's always a pleasure to talk with you. Enjoy Florida.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work in Chicago. Appreciate it.
Right,
thanks, Corey. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And please leave a comment in the comment section. We'd love to hear your thoughts.